Allegiance. This book and all of its sequels I dedicate to the children of the world who have only us to keep their joyous, inventive, adventurous souls propelled into the ideas that create our future. I and those with me do this for you so you may see the path to ascension. James Evans Boehmer wrote The Code after a vivid experience with activation of the human body. It is an account of a relative piece of immense knowledge gleaned from the realm of the supreme in regards to our world. It encourages the reader to discern the difference between reality and actuality. That is what is really going on versus what you think is going on. The Code takes apart language in the way never seen before while simultaneously connecting the synchronicities witnessed within our world. It allows one to become a master over their own life, reading the fabric of their existence to answer the major questions such as where did I come from, and what happens when I die. The Code was completed on April 22, 2009 and was made available to the world for free. Since then it has stirred a great deal of awakening amongst the seekers of truth. If the reader takes to heart that this publication was written in 2009, they will also see the authenticity of the content unveiled within. The author has since continued his work, starting a massive website known as The Resistance along with a real-time enlightenment network called Astral Quest. He asks that the reader realize consciousness is a real-time quest, something without a beginning or end. There have been many updates to the revelations contained within. However, the reader will still find self-fertilization and prosperity within the core principles presented within this codex, wholeness and balance. The race was not given to the quick or the swift, but to the one who could endure till the end. Then we found out there was no end. The unwary soul, who fails to grapple with the mocking demon of illusion, will return to the earth as the slave of illusion. To become a true master of fate, you must first become a knower of self. In a time much too distant to consider, we as humans splitting from the single source enter duality, spiraling away from the Creator. Some spun in the direction of 6 while others spun in the opposite direction of 9. This is the spiral force. These two forms contain complete opposites. However, it is with their union something new can be born. The sequence of life. Our solar system houses various binary or dual worlds, and Earth, first known as Tiamat, is one of them. Once entering this realm, the spirit began to develop its very narrow definition of things. As in most cases, besides twins, they are lacking their other side. In instinct we create a stand in which we call the ego. The ego is wholly constructed of astral energy in which we create and breathe life into every day. At times, not knowing power, we will have an opportunity to discover their true form, which is not a word and comes before even thought. It is the highest, if you but knew. Consider hot, cold, light and dark. Is there not warm and gray which can easily fit between the two? Not to mention in temperature there is hot, cold, warm, vapor, freezing, and many more stages, each having a particular use, some being very beneficial for a certain moment, and useless for others. If someone came to your door looking for a person that you love to do them harm, would you tell them they were inside, or would you lie and say they were not around? If you lead to protect that person, is that good or bad? If you ask a pastor of a church, they will say it is evil to tell lies, period. But is it better to allow the loved one to be hurt? As you see, everything is a matter of perspective. So there can be no good and bad, only reason. Reason has so many parameters that if all things are not considered, a person could be left confused, not knowing what decision to make from time to time. Thus they are left and lost in time. Whatever you do in life, let it be endowed with meaning and purpose. The world is lodged in the phase of opposites right now. Thus we face wars, racism, and extinction of our natural life. What I'm presenting here is the information of the inner workings of the world, along with its creeds, cultures, and religions that have shaped our thoughts and actions since antiquity, extending several incarnations. We will see how ideas grow over time and sometimes lose their true meaning altogether. In this we will see also how we were taken off track. This due in part by the controllers knowing if you take humans from their original cycle, they are easy to confuse and enslave. Let us not forget we faced many conquerors in the past, intending to usurp the order of the world and bring it under their sway. This they accomplished, and it should not be forgotten no matter how much the illusion tells you it does not exist. The foolish think of me, the unmanifest, as having manifestation, knowing not my higher, immutable and most excellent form. Fools disregard me as clad in human shape, not knowing flesh cannot withstand me. They have empty hopes, vain actions, a vain knowledge, and senseless they verily are, possessed of deceitful nature and become undivine beings. I hurl these evildoers into the womb of distortion, deluded birth after birth. Not attaining me, they thus fall into a condition even lower, without the slightest suspension, proving they are not using the reason and senses we gave them, the Most High. There exist certain systems, mainly language and religion, that perpetuate this fallacy of illusion in a subliminal way. If you happen to be aligned with any of the religions or ideas being discussed, do be careful not to think of it as bad if you happen to hear something that makes you uneasy. After all, many of us at one time or another in this life or in past lives have avowed ourselves to something only to later find out we have outgrown it because we now possess an entirely different set of key knowledge. Every time we learn something new that is the truth we should celebrate, we are closer to home. Reason 1. Entire universes are known to be binary. This gives the possibility of balance and diverse continuation. The figure 8, which is the sign used for infinity, is actually the sign of the two worlds that one continues to reincarnate through one after the other in an infinite loop we call stasis. Our own parallel actually exists in this other world simultaneously until it is merged with. It also remains just as clueless as you are right now to its existence. The others. This world we are in is fully animate. It has been constructed by an ability so powerful it has missed no details. Challenge in life equals substantial growth. It is, after all, the constant lifting of heavier weights that makes a person strong. Those weights we must lift are actually other life forms that are very dense, slow-moving vibrations. These weights, when attached to us, make us wait right here on Earth, burdened down and unable to fly. Those of us who are divine positive are attracted to the light, thus we must get light by releasing the weight. But wait, the complexity of the Creator exists within its creations, and there are many of us. On third density we all appear to be about the same. 2 arms, 2 legs, a head, etc. Although if you had the ability to see each individual's astral form, no 2 forms would look the same. Some you would see infused with animal natures, extraterrestrial life, unknown elements and essences, and everything else they had accumulated in past existences, all comprised into one auric field. When that field is placed in a humanoid body, the outer shell looks similar enough to allow you to get along in society. We are all something much more different than what is seen in the mirror, so we must never be confused that the reflection is the complete you. On other dimensions there are so many life forms, they cannot be catalogued. It would be much more difficult than listing every type of insect, plant, fish, mammal, etc., which exist on such a small planet as Earth. On their dimension they have a spirit form. The breath flows through all living creatures. When they take physical form, as we have, they combine with what is most like their character. The ancient knowledge was to know how they appeared in the seen world, how to communicate with them, and which ones to avoid. Many of these beings had no concern for the humanoids whatsoever, themselves being either much too dense to comprehend human life or much too developed to waste thought on something so distant and primitive. There are beings who in fact are closer to us in proximity of creation and also endowed with reason. They possessed a fiery and airy nature. They are known now as the serpents. Mankind's history with the serpents is undeniable. For example, in Colombian mythology, Bachu, the primordial woman, was called Serpent Celestial, celestial snake. Mesoamerican cultures worshipped Quetzalcoatl, the feathered serpent, and they await his return just as Christians wait for Jesus. The Egyptians called them Neteru and said they came on heavenly boats and set up priesthood whose priests were called Jeti. Sound familiar? The Sumerians claimed their ancestors were reptilian Anunnaki who genetically modified them to be slaves. It is of value to keep in mind the Sumerians say they were hybridized and made as slaves, while other legends simply say they intermingled with their population. In Ethiopia, stories and ancient statues can be found of the serpents known as Naga. These Naga also went into Persia and China. Nagasaki was named after the serpents who migrated there. In Japan, the dragon Yesha is the protector of Buddhism. The Celts make mention of the Druid adders, or great serpents that came to instruct them in mystical arts. The Hebrews speak of the serpent Nakash who was ever giving them trouble and misguiding their people. The Arabs produced thousands of codex warning of the serpent Shaitan and his cunning ways of making man and woman fall short. It is safe to say that we can identify at least one non-humanoid being that in fact interfaces with our life cycle, and this is only one, but there are many more. Thus we should be able to establish that we are not alone. The correct knowledge actually makes your spirit larger. Knowledge is the food for the spirit. When this happens, it is akin to a fish that has gotten too big for its tank. You must move on. This is no different than having a small bike as a child that takes you everywhere you need to go, because as a child your range is a lot smaller. When you get older you may need a car, plane, or even a ship depending on where you are intending to travel. The body itself, when developed, is the vehicle to traverse the cosmos, and it must now be prepared to do such a thing. This is a vastly populated territory we speak of, and it contains the experiences you will need to continue growth. We will discover that all the things we have gone through in life have served to get us to that point. It is only of value to realize that since nothing is absolutely still, you must continue to move. This is the nature of our entire universe. Nothing dies, for even if you blow it up, it will still become an infinite amount of pieces of whatever it was before. Reason 2. The Maya clearly show they had already pledged allegiance to a group of masculine serpents. The serpent races are just as vast as our own. Many of the serpents are on a collective mind, thus they are generally out to accomplish their own agenda and stop at nothing to see it through. Humans are looked at as a resource to most of them, as they are a supremacist warrior class. Also, some have mated with the human race and try to protect their hybrids as extended family. Many of the ancient reptilians despise this union, and thus a war has ensued amongst the elders and the siblings. Reason 3. In the Egyptian glyphs it clearly shows much larger humanoids inhabited the land. They are the Nephilim, bent on world domination and enslaving what they called inferior humans. They exist now in spirit form. This is beyond Alexander the Great and Constantine. In fact, this is where they drew their power and destiny from. They were just a human catalyst, hybrids themselves, although their legends are so shrouded in myth it does them little credit to the truth of their origin. Alexander was known as Great Two-Horn, and by the Arabs Dul-Qarnayn, who built the wall. Reality permeates the globe. We are awakening as children of giants from a long slumber, realizing that we have been living a long dream. As a planet we have seen many ages that are part of a larger cycle of growth. This is the process of turning dirt into gold. One thing that we can be sure of, since man and woman have triumphed through the Stone Age to now meet the end of the Space Age, is that we most certainly intend to continue on through what is next. Like a game of chess, you anticipate the player's next move, so we see that it is the age of ether we are arriving into, or more simply put, spirit. Now we can begin to do the things that only made up the fiction portion of our previous ideas and imagination. Reason 4. From the Stone Age to the Space Age was made to look so easy a caveman could do it. Have you asked yourself where our world is headed next? What do you think organizations like NASA, Lucent, and Sony are really doing with now trillions of dollars? Reason 5. An actual NASA photo of what appears to be a very conscious form in the galactic looking back at us. Phillips Astronomy Atlas, page 194. Other sentient life forms are found on Earth all the time, but we have now been trained to reject clear proof separating us more from the reality of the existence of other creations, many of whom are very intelligent. The weight of the body, which is now the cube, will be shed, and we will be open once more to higher senses. We would do well to develop and train these senses now. As we speed up and things begin to occur, there will not be time to practice. There is no doubt that we will experience a new eon. We are all adepts of motion, acolytes of the flux. We populate the galaxy, and thus we have solidified our wave through the harmonic cosmos. We are vessels of known and unknown energies, untold being ourselves, converters for multiple life forms to assimilate and grow, not only on Earth, but also in space, as above so below. This energy field cannot be seen with the untrained eye, but exists all around you as a standing column wave. With the science of sound, which is vibration, we can venture to know that if a large wave is made by anything in the same pool, it will only make the smallest waves speed up and increase in size. Thus the small are supported by the great and coaxed to become bigger. Since these greater forces are now sending out stronger waves than ever, our choice is, when we face that big wave, can we ride it, or will we wipe out and hope to catch another? we can be sure that we cannot be destroyed because the soul is within us, a gift by the Most High which is immortal and without end, but yet can be made to forget, which is called the second death. When a person really assimilates, realizing that there are other sentient things in existence, it opens them up to a better understanding of the Most High through diversity. This also allows us to make a sober estimate of ourselves and where we personally stand in the levels of matter. When one remains indolent to a fact of such magnitude, there are sure to be repercussions. Those repercussions cause a supremacist nature, never considering what we think is the top is actually the bottom for another being. We would assume we are on an elated level, which really does even more damage than good, since the subconscious mind factors in that we are poisoning the same air we breathe. So as the most intelligent, we are really the most ignorant. Anything built on that kind of foundation will go through successions of destruction and chaos. Now we have Earth's full historical description. When this changes, which it will very soon, everything will be different, fast. My first experience with the others was when I unknowingly started a purification procedure and became enlightened. I had no doubt heard of accelerated thinking and higher abilities. However, my intention at the time was to just seek answers from a higher source, not to mention trusting of whether a higher source could actually be contacted. I knew something higher existed, which became obvious by seriously taking into account that man did not create man. It's at least mathematically not possible. I had done this by chanting until my body had changed its complete vibrational frequency, which took about 2 hours and some extreme desire. The desire I called HSM, heart, soul, and mind, was something I found in the Torah that was worth extracting. It was said to be the real formula of contacting the Most High, a focal point to interface with if one came to such a moment that contact would need to be made. Once I started to activate, all the metal in the room was shaking. I had to remove my watch, belt, and anything that contained metal. I had no idea this was going to be the outcome. The energy was far more than I anticipated, thus I was extremely unprepared and confused, but strong nonetheless. I had become the portal for higher self. Breaking through the netherworld with obviously his car in tow, my friends got stuck. How this appeared in our realm was he looked to me to be gone, wacko, done, goosed. I was gathering myself fast, still feeling the strength, but also thinking of the full parameters of what just occurred. I knew that I had to do something fast because my friend, Fiend, was saying the same 2 words over and over so loud eventually the neighbors would call the cops. He seemed to be in a mental loop. Using the word, I yelled it into his mouth. It was all I could think to do. Later he said at that moment he saw a light and he was able to hurry to it. That brought him back to this plane. That was my second vivid spiritual encounter. We will now mention with no more delay our source, the exact one with no equation, beyond capacity and function, jubilant magnetor dispersed in realities self-generated. We swoon in ecstasy when you touch us, and we guard thy beloved with our life as no cost. The charge is to admonish the guided with exact knowledge of this time sequence and its mysteries we will expose as they lay bare before us. This is so all things may be made clear and the path may be made level for thy feet. Think not these works are those of my own, nay, I was found by the source headed swiftly in the wrong direction. It was then I was visited. In that state I was strengthened by the hosts who, perceiving in me such a lowly state but a subtle glow as we all possess the remnants of a brighter star in our hearts, it was through them it was conveyed to me my mishaps. It was in such joy of returning to the true path and turning from the abyss that I light ultra rays resplendent that will exhaust plutonium fuel cells so all in the darkness may know of and come to receive the real light. Reason 6. What the many ancient tribes have been explaining to Westerners since time immemorial is that we are actually located on a lower plane that is being ruled by various entities. The subplanes are indicated above by the triangles in the center. The pictures of beings you see are of various ascended masters or gods who rule different parts of the planes. The 4 outer points are the gates. The Kabbalah reflects the same thing, indicating the planes as spheres or hexagrams. They also served as calendars because the alignment of everything from above and below is perfectly in order.